again, we need people who can encourage us to grow. Sometimes you may ask yourself questions: why did this happen to me? Why did God do this to me? And why did I not appear like so and so? These questions and Wafula Strike will be helping us understand this, and also the meaning of life and most of the things she has done to humanity, to make sure that you don't feel discouraged, to make sure that you don't feel like you're an exorcist from the society. Welcome so much to EBN TV, and how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's it's a big pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's beautiful. And you're most welcome again and again at EBN TV.
Asante.
Yeah, so it's the first time we are meeting, and I've followed most of your stories, and I feel the touch they have to humanity, and I know how encouraging they are to most of the people who may be going through some of the things maybe you went through in life. And because our audience are watching us, let's know more about Anne.
Thank you. I don't know, you know, when you say that, I really don't know where to start from. But I'm going to try my best. So
thank you.
maybe I'll say that Anne is a child of God.
Yeah.
You know, that is the most important thing.
That's very important in life.
Anne is a servant of the people.
Yeah.
And without sort of saying that, yes, I'm a teacher, I'm a Paralympian, I'm all those things, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I think maybe I'll say that I am made in the image and the likeness of God. I think that sums up who I am, because sometimes when we define or when we want to introduce ourselves, we want to really dwell on those things that are not really important.
Yeah, true.
Yes, we know they make who we are. But I think to me, I'm just privileged that I've found the grace to be the person I am today. I always say that it is not by accident, it's not by chance, it is by the grace and the doing of the Lord. And I say this because I was born, as a normal, healthy child, without a disability, and then when I was about 2.5 years, I got very ill. I was struck down by an illness that people around us were not able to explain. There was no name to that illness at that particular time. And you know what happens? Empty minds, empty souls are filled with anything. So the villagers filled it with many things. Some were like, oh, it's a curse from God. Oh, this is witchcraft. All those things. But at the end of the day, when I was taken to hospital and I saw a proper doctor, and my parents were told that I'd been struck down by polio.
Sorry.
So that is, you don't have to be sorry. That because life happens.
Yeah, true.
They always say, God only gives us, burdens that He knows we can carry.
Yeah, true.
And also the spirit is very resilient. Sometimes you think, you see people, you see someone with a disability, or you see somebody struggling with different challenges, and you are quick to say, how do they do it? I don't think I can survive. I don't think I can do it. Then something happens to you, and you just realize that really the human spirit is so resilient. Things happen to us, and it's how God gives us the grace, the power, the mercy, to pick ourselves up and to carry on with this journey.
Okay, that's beautiful. So let's know a bit of that life maybe you went through before you realized that you were ill with polio, and how the diagnosis looked like. Because I was born in western part of Kenya, Webuye, in a very remote village. And, people always laugh because I say I was born in a place that did not have running water, no electricity. So remote. It's different now. But it was a very humble environment where my mother would go to the river and, as tradition or practice, when you're a girl, you start to follow your mother to the river. True.
So one day we were coming from the river with my mother, and I just fell down. I was crying, and they started looking at me. You know, they didn't know what was wrong. My grandmother came. There was nothing wrong. And then by evening, my body had gone limp. You know, I was sweating. I'd sort of like cried, and I couldn't even cry anymore. Then suddenly my eyes shut, and it's like I went into some kind of a partial coma. You know, they started to treat me traditionally because that is the only way they knew. You know, you know, it's sort of like bring witch doctors, bring you know, people to come and cut my skin and put some potions. You know, because my mother and my grandmother wanted me to be well. That did not happen, and my father was in the military at that point, you know, at that time. So when my father came back to the village, and really the villagers became hostile, they did not want us in the village because they did not want this curse, what had come upon our household, to probably spread to the, you know, to the rest of the village, because of the stigma and lack of knowledge, lack of education. To them, they believed that this is something that was contagious. You know, they did not want the curse to spread far and wide, as if it would. You know, but yeah, that was their mentality, and because of that, we were actually ostracized from the village. And it's until when we went to the capital city, Nairobi. My father was in Kahawa Barracks. I was taken to, you know, to the hospital, where I saw the doctors, and that was the diagnosis. My father was told, this is polio. You know, so they started to treat me. It was a bit late, but they started to treat me. And my earliest memories are me having calipers and crutches. You know, because I say to people, without the calipers and crutches, without the wheelchair, I'll just crawl on my hands and knees because I can't walk at all. So that was me, really. That is the initial that is the initial me of a girl who crawled on my hands and, you know, my hands and knees. A girl who was stigmatized from very early on, even before I knew a lot about the world, because stigma really just started when my life changed, you see, where the villagers did not want us. Send these people out of the village. And you know, I must say that as a young child, you know, when you're growing up and you cannot really play with your friends, when everything is not designed with you in mind, or the inclusion or the accessibility, as a person, it sort of like plays on your self-esteem, which it did on me. It plays on your self-esteem, where you start to ask yourself first. You know, you start to say, you know, you have those unanswered questions. Why me? So it was the very beginning questions. Why am I the only different person in my household, but also so many other people around? You know, so you ask yourself questions, but then it's still, you are the one who's supposed to come up with the answers, because nobody has the answers. You know.
Right, that's good. And we were talking of the issue of diagnosis, and you realized that then you were treated a bit late. Now, again, I'm looking at the issue of you being exorcised from the society. We're looking at the local authorities within your village at that time. Did they not ask why you're being exorcised, or they were part of the team pushing you out of the village?
I think there must have been a conspiracy theory of the elders, the church, not the church elders, but the faith elders, the traditional elders, maybe the people who are most vocal in the community, who must have come up with that decision. Because if it was just the ordinary person, that would not have happened. You know, if it was just the ordinary villager, then they would have said no. You see, they would have said don't do that. But that is life. And do you know what? I think now when I look back, I always say I kind of feel that the world or God was preparing me for something. You know, when that was happening. When things are happening to you at a particular time, you don't know. But I think God was giving me a testimony from a very early age, from the time when I was very young. God was giving me a testimony that I would share with the world.
Yeah.
So we are thrown out of the village. I'm in the capital city now. I start to go to hospital. They tell my father I have polio. Then I'm fitted with calipers and crutches to start learning how to walk.
Yeah.
And then I end up in a school for the people with the physical disabilities. And this is a very beautiful school in Kisumu. It's called Joyland School for the Physically Handicapped. So that's where I went to school from standard 1 to standard 7. When I say standard 7, you know how old I am now. So it's sort of like, oh, the old generations. You young people will not understand.
Yeah, we may not. You
may not understand. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Now, before we get to how you schooled in your primary school, how was the transition from the capital city to Kisumu?
I think that was okay. That was okay because remember, now I'm living in the barracks where there's running water, but still needing a lot of help. To going to this school, in Kisumu, and the school was accessible. This is a place that had running water, proper flush toilets. We had dormitories, boys' dormitories, girls' dormitories. We had our mothers and our fathers, people who would mentor us, teach us how to shower ourselves, bathe ourselves, how to make your bed. And I started to thrive. I started to thrive. So the transition was really good. But what happens when you're so used to your comfort zone at home to going to a boarding school where you have to wake up by 6:30, you're up, you go for breakfast in the morning. It becomes a little bit challenging. But when you're a young person, you quickly adapt to that, which I did. Which I did.
Oh, that's beautiful. So now you went to primary school from class 1 to class 7. Please kindly highlight some of the challenges that you went through in your state.
In school?
Yeah, in school from class 1 to class 7.
I think class 1, class 7, I must say, maybe I did not have any physical challenges apart from, I found myself in a community that became my tribe. Because we were all disabled, we all had different disabilities, and we never saw each other person's disability. We saw the ability in the people. Because it became a very competitive place where we had art and craft, there was music, we were the best musicians. We played the sport, the sport that we were able to play as people with different challenges, physical disabilities. But one challenge I remember was that when I was in school, in 1979, my mother died. My mother passed away, and I was very young still. And remember, when we closed school from Joyland, when I went home, my mother was my world. She showered me, or she washed me, she bathed me. She's the one who did everything for me. And suddenly, she was taken away from us. And when my mother died, I felt like part of my world went with her. And I had to learn again how to live without her, without her support, without her guidance. And that was a big challenge. Because, I'm looking at my siblings, because being a fourth born of 8 children, then your mother is not there. My father has been left as a single mother, a single man. He's in the army, he's constantly away from home. It was a big challenge, not just to me, but also to me and my siblings. But by God's grace, I thrived in school. I finished from Joyland. I went to secondary school, which was a mainstream school, Kereri Girls High School, where I was privileged to be there from Form 1 to Form 6. Now again, you people, you do not understand what Form 6 is. Form 6 is, I think people of our generation, we had some really great kind of education. True. Really fantastic.
It was not watered.
It was not watered, to get from standard 1 to standard 7. you have to pass the standard 7 exams. You know, we call them
The
CPE.
Yeah.
And then you go to Form 4. Then from Form 4, if you went to high school, you are the top of, you know, you are the cream of society. Which was me. I was the cream of society.
That's great.
I went to Form 6. Then from Form 6, I went to university. You know?
Yeah.
But so going to mainstream school, I think I experienced challenges. But let me tell you, Jeff, first of all, every time I went to Joyland School, you know, because being a boarding school, you are there for 3 months. 1 month you go home.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Every time we left the gates of Joyland School to get into the community, prejudice screamed at us. You know? You just walked outside the gates of Joyland School for the physically handicapped, and you could see people looking at you, people staring at you, and that's when you are reminded that you are different. You know? While we were inside there, we belonged. There was that sense of belonging. Because you are encouraging one another, you are getting education, everything is good. You get outside, that world is not designed for you. And you had to learn how to survive in that cruel, you know, very cruel world. So when I went to secondary school, I was kind of prepared, but not 100%. So it was also really challenging because remember, I was still using calipers and crutches. It was really a challenging moment where without proper inclusion, proper access, then inclusion becomes a problem. Inclusion is tested. And what happens when inclusion is tested? You are automatically marginalized. And that is the life that I had.
And I'm trying to look at the level and the issue of stigma. When you are out of the zone that you felt that you belong to it, now you're coming to the whole world where we've got each and every other person, every level of people there, people with different disabilities. How did you cope with the issue of stigma?
I think the issue of stigma was really challenging because in those days, you know, a proper African woman is a woman who was expected to go to the river, fetch water, come and look after your children, do this, do one, do I wasn't, so I was already outside, you know, the margin, or I was already outside the bracket of who a typical woman, African woman was. So I think stigma, you know, first of all, to me, the way I would understand stigma is when, you know, the power you have is taken away from you, and you are reduced to something, or you are reduced to someone that isn't valued in the community or in society. You know? And why does stigma happen? Stigma happens because you are different in a way. And in my case, it's because I was, you know, I acquired a disability. You know, so having this disability and sort of like people looking at me and knowing that she's useless, she'll amount to nothing. This is what my father was also told. You know, because she's not just a disabled child, she's a disabled woman. She's a disabled female child. And even at some point, my dad was even told, don't waste your money educating her. You know, don't waste your money educating her. But my father was the stubborn one, you know, the stubborn kind of fathers or men who are like, I am going to support this child just the way I'm supporting all my children. Yes. So stigma is something that really used to keep me awake at night. Because sometimes I'll be like, how will I cope tomorrow? That was constantly at the back of my mind. How will I maneuver this? How will I do this? How will I achieve this? And I think at some point I did dwell a lot on stigma, and it stole my joy. You know, it stole my joy. It stole my peace. And who wants to live without joy and without peace?
None.
You're so right.
Right, and I'm also looking at the issue of self-esteem, because you realized the issue of polio when you were 2 years old, and as someone is born, you always have to notice there are some talents that you have, there are some dreams that you need to achieve as a person. What are some of the dreams that maybe you felt? Suppose you found yourself drowning into stigma. Maybe those dreams would be shot.
I think to me, when you are born and you are because I contracted polio when I was only 2.5 years. So at that time, the dreams haven't developed,
True.
But when I started to dream, all the people I aspired to be like, or the people that would have been my role model, they did not suit the narrative. I never saw anyone with a disability that I could say, oh, I want to be like that person. I never saw any. But at one point, I saw Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai is a woman that she was an activist. She was talking about environment. And sometimes I would sort of like, they would bring her in the press, but she was portrayed in a negative way. At some point they said, oh, this is a mad woman, because she was going to Karura Forest and trying to, But I used to see something in her, and I used to see the spirit of resilience. And I used to see the spirit of standing alone. I used to see this, within her, I would see the spirit of just wanting to sort of like, wanting to sort of like be that person who's fighting for a cause and not giving up. And I admired a lot, in that woman because of the fighting spirit within her. But still, she did not have a disability because in life we always say you cannot be, the person that you don't see. And I'm talking about role models because sometimes it's role models that shape our lives.
True.
So I never had any role model that would have shaped my life. But at one time, I think when I was about a teenager, 12, 13, 14, with puberty, I wanted to be somebody like, I wanted to be a model, and I would read, sort of like, those days we used to have like drum magazines. Even though you're so young, you'll not understand this, but there was like fashion magazines, You look at that and it's like, I want to be a model, I want to do this. But then I did not see myself in them. They did not have a disability. So these were still dreams that I could never ever achieve. That is in my perspective, in the perspective of the community. I could never be these people because I could not just be them because I had a disability. They did not. But I think my father made me to start to dream in a different way. And my father taught me to dream academically. My father used to say, you know what, and they used to call me Mommy. They still call me Mommy. So many times my father used to say, your brothers, your siblings, they can go and do manual work. But you, Mommy, if you don't get an education, what kind of a person will you be? You'll never go and be someone's house girl. You'll not go and work in a factory. You'll not go and do, you'll just not walk on the streets and sell tomatoes, and you'll not because of your disability. And my father really pushed me to get an education. And sometimes I used to wonder why he wanted me to spend more time reading books, studying. He wanted me to do well. And even pushed me more than he pushed my brothers and my other sisters. And at one time my father said to me, I know when I'd finished primary school and I went to secondary school, and going to A-levels, didn't really want to go to, to do my A-levels because I was like, at least Dad, I'm disabled and I've passed really well in my, in my Form 4 exams. So stop pushing me. I could go and become a primary school teacher or do something like that. But my father said, you know what, Anne, Mommy, I see you and I think you're very intelligent. And my father used to say, you could get a degree and you could get a master's degree and you could even get a PhD. A PhD. And he used to say, you could be Professor Dr. Anne Olympia Ofula, My dad really used to speak to me because he wanted me to get an education. And I remember very well, he used to say, when you get an education, it's like you have a key. You have a magic key. And this magic key will help you open different doors. And I embraced that.
Yeah. Right, that's good. And maybe I'll be adding something on top of that, but before I go there, what level of self-esteem did stigma affect?
What level of
self-esteem?
I think to me, the level of self-esteem that was affected was quite high.
Yeah.
Because I looked at myself, and because the way polio affected me, I can't use my legs, and my legs are really thin. My legs are, because the muscles did not quite develop.
Yeah,
I've got a scoliosis, and if I didn't have calipers and crutches, I'll crawl on my hands and knees. Who wants to be crawling on their hands and knees? Automatically, there's no self-esteem there, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Automatically, there's no self-esteem. I relied on my sisters to do things for me, to wash my clothes, to get water for me. And even when I went to school, secondary school, I relied on my friends to fetch water, take water in the bathroom for me to shower, to bath in the morning before I went to class. So all that, my life, it's like I couldn't do a lot by myself.
Yeah.
I needed help, I needed support. I was always beholden to somebody else to do something for me. That is not a very good place that you want to be. Any human being, you don't want to be in that position, because you want to kind of have some power, where you can say no or yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to fetch water, I don't want to fetch water today. Not in a place where, oh please, could you wash my uniform for me today? Or please, could you do this for me today? So that's where I was, having to ask for help all the time.
All the time, yeah.
But also just because of the culture, the fabric, the African society, the way it is, the way it is fabricated. You have to be a certain person to be accepted in society, and disability isn't one of them.
Yeah. Okay, now that brings me or us to a point of asking now that you grew in a certain way of life, and we're looking at different people maybe in your state, and a lot of them may be discouraged right now. What message maybe can you take to these people who are going through this?
I think to me, I probably speak to both, people living with disabilities, people caring for those living with disabilities, but also those who don't have disabilities. Because I tell you what, Jeff, what we see as broken sometimes isn't broken. So you may see someone like they have a disability, and you may want to have mercy or pity or sympathy, or even disgust or hate towards them. But really, what you may see as broken really isn't broken. And I think to me, what I'll encourage all this group of people is always see the person. See beyond a disability. See beyond an impairment. Because behind, excuse me, behind this disability, behind this impairment, there's a full human being.
Yeah, true. True. That's great. Now, I want to take you back a bit to something. Now, there is a time when you exorcised from your village, and a lot of people saw it as a curse. And in that line of encouraging these people who are going through all this, how can you describe your situation or your state to people who are going through this, or maybe someone watching and saying that maybe mtu alikosea Mungu ama something of such a sort?
Do you know, and I know because when they say that God has cursed you, you automatically believe that God doesn't love you, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
And if God doesn't love you, because they say that God is all merciful, and also if God doesn't love you, the Bible says we are all created in the image of God. But then if you're being thrown out of your village because you are cursed, and people are saying that God has even cursed you, that really plays on you. That really plays on you. But I think as a Christian, to me, I believe that I think sometimes God works through people like us.
Yeah, true.
Do you know, what do they say about that rejected stone in the Bible. Do you read the Bible?
Yeah.
What do they talk about the rejected stone? What does that stone become?
To make foundations.
It becomes the cornerstone, isn't it? And we are the people who are rejected from the community, from society, because we are different. Then we end up being, that touching, it's like a wire where like two wires are connected. We end up trying to bring people back to their senses, where they look at us and they see the glory of God. And I always use my life as an example where I was rejected, I was ostracized, but I am the person that I am today because it is only God who is a destiny maker. It's only God who has our destiny. And maybe if I take you back a little bit, when you're talking about people who are disabled, or people who are caring for, the disabled family members or friends, and they sort of look at it and they think, oh, how do we go about this? I think to me, I'll encourage them. Just take one day at a time. Because God is in it. God is in our lives.
Yeah, true.
And I think there's no better thing than the world seeing you as broken. But they don't know how rich you are because you have God in your life. And that is me. I think sometimes God chooses to use those people that the world sees as less. Yani wewe umechukiwa, umedharauliwa, you are downtrodden because you have a disability. But God comes and lifts you because God wants to use you. Also the Bible says, if we don't praise the Lord, the stones can do it. I always think I am a stone, I am a really stone because where people thought I could not reach, what people thought I could not achieve, I have. Why? Because God is God. It's because He's a merciful God, and it's God who gives, it's God who takes. It's God who sort of like, who really knows the true, who really knows who we are,
Okay, that's true. And I'm looking at a point after you get this kind of stigma, after you feel that you don't have self-esteem. I'm looking at a point where you're still growing within the pushes that people, maybe the pressures, the stigma, and all sort of things. Where did you draw your strength from?
I think I drew my strength from, first of all, I'll say my immediate family, my friends. Some of them are here. I drew strength from my friends who, they never saw my disability. They saw me as Anne, Mami, the cheeky girl, the happy girl, the intelligent girl, the friendly girl. And because to me I was their friend, I was their sister, I was their cousin. That was enough. So I drew strength from there. But also when I went to school, I drew strength from from the system around the school. Because the structure that was there was a structure that taught us self-belief, to believe in ourselves. But if I go further, I'll also say that I drew strength from faith, from the Christian faith, where you get to learn about the Bible, you get to understand, the love of Christ, where it is an unconditional love, where the Lord is in your suffering, the Lord understands, where you're coming from, but not just where you're coming from. He already knows where you're going to, and He's holding your hand and taking you there. So the journey becomes a little bit easier. Because when the thing is when you find faith, when you find the Lord, you have a vision. And I'm going to describe this vision. This vision is similar to a blind person who loses their sight, but they still have a vision. That is how sometimes I want to describe Christianity. You may, you have a vision that you cannot perceive by the outward. the ordinary eye. So when you have that, you it's like you carry on, you know.
Okay. So maybe you can tell us who were your biggest support system, maybe from your family to the school, maybe a primary school to the high school or that level, and if maybe you looked like a burden to these people.
Definitely, you are. Even you, Jeff, you'll be a burden to your brother. If you can't pay your school fees and you're having to ask for money from them, you're a burden. So we are all burdens to one another. But I think it's how do we bear those burdens, you know. And to me, I was a big burden because my father had to employ a house girl, and the house girl would go because I was a very naughty one, and I was the first one to insult the house girl. I want to fight the house girl, you know, because she wasn't doing the right thing. So apart from being a burden just at home, I was a burden to my friends. You know, carry me on your back. Somebody will be carrying my crutches. Somebody will be carrying my, you know, my calipers. In school, they'll be washing my clothes, getting water for me. It's a burden. Some of them bore this burden with a lot of joy because we were friends. Also did bear this burden well because of love. And some of them maybe it wasn't a burden, it was a responsibility. I think to my parents, it was a responsibility. You know, you don't bring your child into this world and then you suddenly ignore them or just leave them like that. So my father bore this burden with a lot of joy, with a lot of pride. You know? And I always say my father is my hero. Because even when my father, people in the village were telling him, you know, later after some time, why are you staying with this disabled child in town? Mwache akae na nyanya yake. And my father said no. So I look at my father and I'm like, this is one man who carried this burden with a lot of pride. I was, you know, I am his child. You know, I am the blood and flesh of his flesh, you know, of his blood. And he never gave up on me. Even when the world was giving up on me, my father was there.
Okay, that's a good one. And before we get a short break, I would like you maybe to give an address to one of your biggest a good message to your father.
I think to me, you know, first of all, what I would like to say is to thank my father. Jeff, my father needs to be Father of the Year in Africa. Is it Africa or the world?
The world.
Where is this award? My father should be the Father of the Year because that man did so much for me. You know, he stood by me. And if he's watching this program, I just want to say thank you, Dad. Asante Baba for you know, standing up, being counted as a man when the world was falling apart. You know, knowing that I was not just a disabled person, a disabled woman. You stood by me, you made sure I had an education. I was educated, I started to work, you know. So I'll thank my dad. But my friends, there are too many to name, you know. All the way from primary school, Joyland School, you know, Kebaya, Winnie Kemuma. These people stood with me in you know, secondary school. I went to university. I have really good friends, Catherine Nabea, Helen Wakio, Ann Muturi. You know, they used to sort of like wash my clothes, help me to make my bed. They did this. I thank these ladies.
All right, that's beautiful. And we shall be taking a very short break from this conversation. Once we come back, we shall pick from university level so that we come slowly, so that someone may be watching for the first time may understand how Anne has grown, how you've grown to be an encouragement to the society and to the people physically disabled. So stick there, we're coming back.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Fitness, fabulous fitness. You need it, we got it. the best home workouts just for you. We keep it fun and sweaty. Join us at EBN TV and get that blood pumping. A fabulous workout for your fabulous body. Keep it fit and fab.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
My name is Mary Mumbua and I watch EBN TV.
For gospel music, I, Anton Dacho, I watch EBN TV.
I watch EBN TV. Do you?
I watch EBN TV.
For educative talk shows, I, Griffin Mukilia, watch EBN TV.
Hey everybody, my name is Purity Mudeu and I'm just here to tell you about EBN TV. Are you somebody looking for a Christian station that can transform your world? Look no further. EBN TV, transforming your world.
Have you been believing God for more faith, more clarity, and a deeper understanding of His Word? Join Reverend Felix Kavoy on Your Faith today as he shares powerful biblical teachings that will strengthen your faith and encourage your spirit.
What manifests in the physical, it was mooted in the spiritual. It is coming out from the Spirit.
Through prayer, worship, and practical insights from Scripture, learn how to understand on God's promises and walk confidently in your divine purpose. To EBN TV, and this is a special edition with an Wafula strike. All right, we're continuing and we'll come back to this very awesome segment, trying to maybe encourage you from wherever you are. We need to grow together so that we can realize the dreams of each and every other person. So with Anne, karibu tena EBN TV.
Asante.
Yeah, we had moved from some levels to university level. So after university, what happened?
After university, I went to start teaching in Machakos Technical Institute. It was Machakos Technical Institute.
Yes.
But I'm told it's now Machakos University.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
So I taught there for about 4 years. Then I met the man that would marry me. So we went to the UK. I got married. I had my child. And yeah, life changed, you know. So I'm saying, life happens.
Yeah, true.
Life happens.
It happens. It happens. All right. So tell us what you do in UK.
Yeah, I do different things in the UK. So you know, because when I was in Kenya, I was a teacher.
Yeah.
And when I went to the UK, really, I'd thought that I would teach. But after I had my child, I found myself into disability sport. So I started to train, going to the gym. And then in 2004, I went to Athens. I represented Kenya in the Paralympics games, in the Paralympic Games. And then I became British in 2006. And I started to represent Great Britain in, you know, in Paralympics. And to me, what I say is finding sport gave me a different platform. It gave me an international platform where I'm now an advocate of disability rights. And you know, I always say disability rights are human rights. So it's still human rights, you see. So that's what I do. I advocate for inclusion in education, inclusion and access in employment. So from teaching in Kenya, when I moved to the UK, I started doing sports. You know, so I became a Paralympian, and Paralympics really gave me an international stage where I now advocate for, you know, for rights.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe one thing that I can say is, you know, when you contract a disability, it doesn't come with a manual.
Yeah.
Nobody tells you, oh, you know, carry this because ukishindwa kutembea, this is what we'll do. No, when disability hits you, when your life changes, it never comes with a manual. And I also believe we are not disabled by our impairments.
Yeah.
We are disabled by the barriers that society, community puts, you know, before us.
Yeah.
So it's all those barriers, you know, the prejudice, the stigma that disabled us.
Yeah.
So being in the UK, I lobby the government. You know, at one time I used to be the Commonwealth's special envoy for inclusion in sports.
Yeah.
So this was 56 countries talking about inclusion and making sure that people are included, the access is good. And this is something that I really cherished, you know, sort of like being able, I don't want to say I speak for other people, no. I help amplify their voices.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, you know, it's, we are not disabled by our impairments.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it is the attitude of the people that's around us, you know, that's really sort of make us disabled.
Yeah, all right, that's great. And you talking of amplifying the voices of the physically disabled people in 56 countries. How do you make this possible?
I think when I was doing that, it was really easy because, you know, sort of like the last few years, I was privileged to be speaking to heads of states, of the Commonwealth, yes, lobbying them, but also speaking to, you know, sports ministers, you know, so the Commonwealth sports ministers. And I think it's a privilege when you are actually being given these people and you're speaking to them. And you speak to them, but you don't know whether they'll implement when they go back home. You know, when you speak with them, when you're lobbying them, politicians are politicians, you know. Some of them will go and really want to make a difference. Some of them have implemented some of the suggestions, some of the policy changes that, you know, we've discussed, and it has worked really well. Some of them have said yes, never implemented, and the nations are still where they were. So, yeah, but I think to me it's a privilege. It's a platform. Yeah,
that's beautiful. And we can see there is a foundation that you're leading.
Yeah, the foundation is called Olympia Wafula Foundation, and we actually push for inclusion, healthy living, or a healthy well-being. This is for the greatly marginalized and those, you know, living with disabilities. And we do give wheelchairs. You don't buy, you know, we don't sell wheelchairs. We don't sell anything. When we have custom-made wheelchairs for the terrain of Kenya, we do give those wheelchairs. We support the disabled people to access education. We've supported a school called Liki, which is just a school for young, you know, abandoned young people with cerebral palsy, given more than 20 wheelchairs, brand new wheelchairs in that school. And many other things here and there, you know, just like what a foundation would do. And yeah, so I think I'm so proud of the work that is going in. And we work in Kenya, Malawi, Haiti, Nepal, and Eswatini. The former, you know, it's now Eswatini, it used to be Swaziland.
Sure. All right, now there are some books you've written. You can also highlight us on the same.
Yeah, I've got my autobiography that was first published in 2010. It's called In My Dreams I Dance. Then the new edition was out in 2024. Yeah, and you know, so actually in the book I just talk about my life and my achievements, my successes, but also the hurdles, you know, the challenges that I've encountered along the way. And
now, do you mean that what's in the first book and the second book that you are yet to release, is it the same book?
No, it's not the same book. You know, in my autobiography, which is In My Dreams I Dance, I just talk about my life.
Yeah.
You know. But in my second book, Pieces of Me, I talk about my intersectionality. And when I talk about intersectionality, people always say, what is that? What is intersectionality? So intersectionality is the three marginalizations that I face. Being a woman, being disabled, and being black. So it's the intersect, you know, those three things. When I was in Kenya, I had to fight the fact that I had a disability and the fact that I was a woman. When I went to the UK, I realized, I also have to fight the fact that I am black. So I am a black disabled woman. So I talk about the intersectionality of how difficult it is sometimes to feel that you belong as a black woman. So when in the UK, when people are still struggling to belong as black women, I'm also struggling to belong as a black woman with a disability. So that's why that book, I called it Pieces of Me. It's these three pieces that make who I am.
All right, that's great. And maybe there's something I would ask there about how you cope in that place, because you are trying to maybe battle three issues of your life: disability, you being a woman, and also being black in the UK. How do you cope?
I do cope because I'm not the only one who's carrying, you know, I want to say it, three crosses. There are many other people who are carrying it. And I think with me, I'll probably say I'm coping with it because I call it out. So I call the injustice out. I don't see an injustice and stay silent about it. I call it out. And the good thing with the West is when you call an injustice out, people will stop, listen, and want to make a change. No, that is the beauty of it.
True.
So I think through my advocacy work, the British government has changed the law on two occasions. So I advocated for accessibility of disabled toilets in all the public transport, you know, trains. So there's always a disabled toilet on a train, but also disabled toilets in all the public buildings. And you know, so you sit with the politicians, you make them see the sense, and they actually say, we will change, and they change. And sometimes I look at our African politicians, our African policymakers, where they're still so reluctant to listen and include the voice of a disabled person when it comes to not just making the policy, but the implementation.
That's a beautiful one, and a great one. Now, you joined, or even you are involved in Paralympics in Athens, Greece. What are some of the achievements you made?
I think going to Athens itself, I made history as being among the very first few people from Sub-Saharan to compete at a Paralympic level in that sport, wheelchair racing. So I think to me that was a big moment for me. Remember, I wasn't an athlete. When I was in school, when my friends were running and doing this, mimi ndio nilikuwa nakaa na washikia machupa za maji na washikia vitabu, because I didn't play any kind of sport because of being disabled. But here I am in the UK, I have my child, I put on a bit of weight, I go to the gym just to lose a bit of weight, and I'm introduced to the sport. The community that, you know, where I live, they bought my first racing wheelchair. My first ever racing wheelchair was bought by the community. And they said, we are going to support this girl. And even though I went to Athens, when I, you know, representing Kenya, they were all behind me. Some of them literally traveled from the UK to Athens to watch me. You know, and I owe them a lot because I started, I think I was just received the way the Kenyan would receive, you know, a disabled athlete those years. 2004, a disabled athlete or an athlete with a disability was a lesser athlete than able-bodied or non-disabled athletes. You know, I don't know whether things have changed now, but I know sometimes when I speak to, to the disabled athletes from, from many parts of Africa, they are still treated as though they're not really heroes of their nations. But you have to remember that when these people go outside there, they are flying the flag of that nation.
Yeah, true.
The medal that is given during these big championships is the same type of medal. But still when they come home, theirs is lesser than those ones of athletes who don't have a disability.
Right. Now, before we make maybe the final segments of this conversation, I'm realizing or noticing that you've realized most of the dreams that maybe you had in life. And maybe from the first start of this story, we saw some people from your village trying to cite curses, maybe trying to cite disability and saying that maybe a message to your father, please don't teach or educate your girl because of this and this and that. Now, what can you tell? After you've achieved all this, you went to Athens, you in the UK, you also became a teacher. That was your first dream. You became a teacher in Machakos Institute, now Machakos University. I would realize that you've achieved a lot of dreams in your status. Now, what message do you send to someone maybe they've realized they have got a certain disability, physical disability, and they feel that because they are being pushed so hard by the world and the pressures and the issue of stigma, they feel that maybe I don't want to go out. And even a message to parents who feel that my child is disabled, I don't want them to be known outside from my house. So what message can you send to these groups of people?
I think to me what I would say, first of all, if you find yourself with a disability, that is not a death warrant. You know, they say that ukikuwa kilema, it doesn't mean that you are dying tomorrow. You're dying, you know. I think life just takes a different perspective or a different, a different angle. You live, you'll eat, you'll do different things. I know with hardships, with a lot of challenges. But I think to me, maybe what I would just sort of encourage these people is to never give up, to have a positive attitude and to always, look at, wake up every morning, look at yourself in the mirror and say, God loves me just the way I am, because we are created in the, in the image of God. And, also another thing that I would say is, don't be embarrassed of your disability. Do not be embarrassed, because God is no respecter of persons. God loves you. The way, let me tell you something. Kukinyesha, when it rains, hujawahi sikia ati mvua ilinyesha mali fulani lakini walemavu hawakupata hiyo mvua. God does not operate like that, because he's a God of favor. He's a fair and just God. So God looks, when God looks down on us, he sees us as his children. He never said, oh, ule mtoto ni mtoto kilema, ule ni mtoto. God sees us as his children, And that's why also I would like to encourage churches to really embrace disability inclusion in their churches. And when I'm encouraging people, those with disabilities, I always say to them, be like Christ. And how was Christ? Christ is, remember, kwa Biblia, I always say, yes, Jesus is the first disability advocate. The first disability activist ni Yesu. Because remember, where Jesus went, he was healing. He was forgiving sin. He never sort of say, wakae huko. No, he went and found them cast out. And he brought them to be with the community again. Sometimes when you have a disability, I always say, knowing that you are not defined by that disability becomes the sweetest thing. So I would encourage those ones who are watching today, if you have a disability, do not let that disability define who you are. Define yourself. Define yourself. And you You know, you may not have had an education, you may not have skills, you may really be struggling. But I think just even use your smile to define who you are.
Okay. And talk about the issue of disability and ability.
You know, to me, what I always say is, people like to say disability does not mean inability, isn't it? And when you look at disability, when you spell disability, they've put a dis in ability. So if you take the DIS out, you are left with ability. But the world decided to use that disability because they look down on somebody's who has lost an ability, either of visual, hearing, or general impairment. They used that. I think, to me, it's a word that I know. Yes, the world would call me disabled, but what does disability mean? Disability means you're not empowered. Disability means you are incapable. Disability means you are useless, you are worthless. But then when you take the DIS from disability, you are left with ability. What does ability mean? You are capable, you are able, you've got power, you've got skills, you can achieve. I think what people need is support, empowerment. And when you want to support and empower someone that the world has called disabled and put in a box, you need to be reaching them to their level. You need to know, how do you want me to support you? Because we always say nothing about us without us. You have to bring me on the table and say, nitakusaidiaje? Unataka nikufanyiaje? Nikusaidie hivi ama So it has to be in conjunction, co-creation with those that the world is calling disabled.
All right, that's great. And I think because of time, we are left with less than 10 minutes, and there is a poem that you have, and you can let us hear of it.
I think I want to read something from from the book that I'm working on. The book is about pieces of me. I did not choose to be a black woman with a disability. I want to be someone that a black disabled girl looks at and says, I want to be like her when I grow up. I want this girl to be more accepting of her disability, of her race, and her color, knowing it is okay to be different, but it is not okay to be marginalized. I want her to have opportunities that I did not have. I want her to have a safe space to exist and be. The feeling of belonging without being apologetic. I want her to know when she's told, no, you cannot. I want her not to be afraid of what she cannot do, but rather be ready to change and challenge the way cannot is defined to her. As much as vulnerability might be frightening, I want this girl to never allow anyone to stunt her growth and quench the fire within. Let her arise as the phoenix that fuels positive disruption, because mountains do not rise without an earthquake. I want this girl to be an earthquake in her community.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And maybe something before we finish. There is a time, that time you were cast away from your village. Do you really, or have you gotten back to your village?
Yes, we go back to the village. Because my dad retired and my dad went back to the village. So village is home. But it took my dad a long time before my dad went back to the village, because we never knew why.
Yeah.
So my dad would get, you know, like when you are working, you get like your leave.
Yeah.
My dad never would go to the village. He would just spend it in the barracks. And we used to wonder because our friends would be going back to the village. Unasikia kina nani walienda ushago, walirudi, as we never used to go. And one time my dad told us he never liked going to the village because of the experience he'd had when I just become disabled. But he went to the village after he retired. And I think my dad also had to reconcile and forgive what had happened in the village.
So, and if suppose you go there right now, will you be received by the villagers?
I've gone there several times. I'm going to the village next week. And I think the people in the village are now more understanding of disability.
Okay, that's great. And if they can receive you better after maybe seeing you how you were in the childhood or through your childhood up to this time and what you've managed to achieve, I think they may try to brand it in a better way and say, okay, so what we are calling this, what we are calling CAS, kumbe it was not CAS. And also when it comes to the issue to the medical field, they maybe also realized this was not a CAS.
Yes, and education. I think we need to be educating our communities on different types of disabilities, on you know things that can destroy people. Education is key.
Yeah, true. It's very true.
And so, knowledge is power.
It's very powerful actually, and it brings light to people who may not understand some of the things maybe that we are talking of. Now, to this point, I know we've got a lot of things that we can cover, but because of time, I'll give you maybe 1 minute to talk of Isaac. I think you've grown up together, and you tell us more about him. Then from there, you make your final remark. Then we call it a conversation.
Yeah, no, I think I want to speak about. You know, to me, when I talk about Isaac Mibanda, I always sort of want to speak to Isaac like he's a young man, because I think Isaac has a testimony. Because Isaac, I've known Isaac from when we were very young, sharing books, exchanging letters. You know, when you're in secondary school, you sort of communicate. So Isaac has been a friend for many years, and a really good friend. And I've seen Isaac rise in his life. And I've seen Isaac hit rock bottom. You know, because of the choices that he took in life. But I think you see a man who sort of like has traveled, you know, a journey. It's almost like you can count his steps. You know, the steps that he's taken in life. So I think Isaac was very influential when he was young. You know, for different reasons, where he used to play music. Isaac would blast music. Isaac was the first person who bought a big system. You know, they used to call it Tenje. You know, he was playing loud music, and he, you know, the young people respected him. He was working and, you know, getting good money. And Isaac's life, you know, changed. And I think Isaac is the kind of person that I would really like Isaac to come and talk about himself.
He will.
I don't want to speak about Isaac, but I think Isaac is now holding a big light to the young people in this, you know, in this country. And maybe those ones who've not heard about Isaac Mibanda, they should be hearing about Isaac's story.
They will very soon.
And you know, to me, what I say to Isaac, Isaac thinks that he's holding this light and lighting his path. But I always say, no, you are lighting the path of all those people that are coming behind you. And those who are appearing from the bushes. You are lighting this light for them.
All right, that's a good one. And that's very true. So, Anne, I think you're making a culmination of your story, or of this conversation surrounding your story, so that maybe we cap it at that. Yes, your final remarks.
I think my final remarks, I probably just want to say a few things, and then I'll just get sort of a few things that I'd actually put them here. get a sip of my tea first. This is really good tea, by the way.
Karibu.
You know, first of all, I want to sort of like speak about, I'm going to mention just 3 things.
Yeah.
About the gospel themes on disability.
Yeah.
And one of them is rejection of blame. And what I want to say to people is, when asked about a blind man, Jesus stated that neither the man nor his parents had sinned, but God's work might be displayed through him.
Yeah.
And I think that is me. And that is the book of John 9:3. And the second one is breaking taboos. Jesus regularly crossed cultural and religious boundaries of the ancient world by touching, speaking directly to disabled people like me, and honoring individuals who are marginalized due to you know, physical challenges. Remember the man with the withered hand in the Bible? You know, or the paralyzed man?
Yeah.
And the third one is inclusion and value. And this is where I really want churches to be more inclusive of disabled people. Wacha nikwambie kitu. There's a time I hated going to church. Why? Every time nilikuwa nikiingia hivi kanisa, pastor akikuona anaona wetu ndio kwa na mashetani. So let me sip this one. You know, you'd be seen as the most sinner.
Yeah.
While besides you, there's an adulterer, there's a thief. Kuna hata mwingine labda ametoka kuua watu, but because your disability is a physical one, wewe ndio unataka uwekelewe mikono haraka. Where is the inclusion in our churches? Remember, when asked about a blind man, about a man born blind, Jesus stated that neither that man had sinned. So now, hiyo ni ya kwanza hapo juu. But when we go back again, let me go back to it. When we talk about now the inclusion, in teachings like Luke 14, you know, when Jesus, najua ile banquet yenye Yesu alifanya, Jesus actively instructed hosts, you know, the hosts who are, you know, people who are hosting the banquet, to invite the poor, the lame, and the blind. These are those who are specifically excluded from society. Akisema wacheni wakuje wakule and you know, stuff like that. Because Christ saw value in people such as myself. And now that I'm on an international scene, you know, scene, Jeff, I was born in a mad hut, you know? So from a mad hut, going to the UK, doing a few things, I started going to Buckingham Palace, meeting with the, you know, the late Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, and now the King. And sometimes you go, you're sitting with such high-profile people who want to seek your counsel, who don't look at your disability, but they look at what you're bringing on the table. And I think, I remember when I was given my MBE, and I, you know, when I was given my MBE, and I did an interview with the BBC, to me I said, this is not just for me. This is for all those disabled people back in Africa who still feel that they don't belong. You know, this is for them. You know, because it's like coming from a mad hut to the palace. It can only be God.
True.
Okay,
that's great. And up to that point, I think you feel you need to mention your father, because he pushed you to do education. Because he said, with your situation, you won't go to work maybe as a house girl. You hautafanya kibarua and another thing, another anti-work. So he pushed you to eat books, into quotes.
My dad did.
Yeah, so maybe the final message to your father, pushing you from that mad art, from your level, from your situation to being in the palace.
I think to me, you know, I'll say thank you again to my father.
Yeah.
And I want to use my father as an example to other parents. Maybe I'll take this opportunity to use the resilience, the dedication my father had towards me achieving and thriving. I think I'll encourage the parents with disabled children. Msiwafungie nje. You know, invest in them. Because hawa ni watoto ambao watakufaa kwa maisha ya usoni. Because if you speak to my dad, my dad will tell you he's so proud of me. I provide for my dad. I look after my dad. He lives in a good house. Akitaka nyama atakula, you know. And this is the child mwenye alikuwa ameambiwa wachana na huyo, you atakuwa nothing. So thank you dad, but I'll encourage wazazi ambao wako na watoto walemavu. Please, pendeni watoto wenyu. Jaribu watoto wenyu wapate elimu. Hata kama labda kwa sababu ya ulemavu wao hawezi kuenda shule, wapate elimu. Wanaweza kufanya courses, you know, polytechnic training. Lakini wapende watoto wao.
Good. Now you from the other part of Kenya where mnapenda salamu sana. Do you have
tunapenda salamu.
Unaweza salimia watu
labda wale watu nitasalimia tu ni watu wa Miu Village. Nitawaambia ninakuja hivi karibuni. Ninatarajia kuku na ugali na mrenda.
That was beautiful. That was a great conversation with Anne Wafula Strike. She's done a lot, and as far as physically disabled people is concerned, you've got an encouragement there. She's gone through a lot. Look to her story, look at her story, follow her story, and you can see how the turning point came into be. So thank you for watching this conversation with Anne Wafula Strike. Follow it on our social media platforms at EBN TV Kenya across. Thank you for watching. My name is Jeffrey Kimayo Somba JK.